So yeah, let's use this Notion page. I have some analysis our team has done. It's not completed yet, but I would like to share some of the early results with everyone. Happy to bounce ideas. I would love to hear from your experience, searching for jobs in the last few weeks or last few months. So feel free to share that with everyone. I think it's an opportunity for us to network and also learn from each other's experience. Before we get started, if there's any question you have, feel free to set them to Zoom chat. I'll paste some of those questions here, and I'll try my best to answer those questions as I go through this talk. So yeah, please go ahead. I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to ask me some questions. And then I'll review those questions, and that helps me understand why you're here today, what kind of questions you have, and then I'll start to introduce the job market. Start to see some questions. Thank you. Haider, what do you mean by dates range of analysis? Thanks for the questions. I've got some really good questions. I'll start with the first one. What's the average time to land a job? I think that really depends. So I can speak to the bootcamp graduates. That's one specific demographic, right? So WeCloudData is a data science training academy. So we mainly work with new grads or folks who would like to switch career. Based on our past experience, it used to be students can get jobs pretty quickly. I was speaking about the cohorts that were before COVID. Half of the students can actually get jobs within 3 months after graduation. Majority of the students will get jobs within 6 months after graduation. 2021 was one of the best years because after I think 2020, the first year of COVID, there are a lot of new openings. That was the time I think the big tech companies are also hiring like crazy. Facebook doubled, and that's why later on they're cutting jobs as well. 2022 and the beginning of this year was pretty tough. So I think for an average bootcamp graduates, your expectation will definitely be, if you really apply for jobs really hard, I would say the right expectation should be 3 to 9 months after graduation. And I can talk about how competitive the job market is right now. But yeah, things have changed. But I think it's across the board, and not just data science jobs, any kind of jobs. It's just more competitive, and there are relatively less opportunities out there. But it's good to see that the market is coming back a little bit. I think May and June, we start to see a lot more offers and also a lot more jobs posted in the market. So yeah, but if you're just getting started with learning data science, I think you should be prepared to spend a solid 1 year, depending on whether you join a diploma program or a boot camp or do completely self-learn. I think doing self-learning will take a slightly longer time. And if you go for a master's, then of course it's going to take even longer. But if you're just talking about if you already have the right skills and you start to write your resume and apply for jobs, and it depends on how much experience and how many skills you have. But I would say be prepared to spend 6 to 12 months to land a job at the moment. The second question is, when does a data analyst become a data scientist? I think this really depends on how much effort you put into learning or upskilling yourself. I've seen this is a career path question, I guess, because there are data analysts that can spend years and become senior and principal data analysts. They don't necessarily become a data scientist, because I think if you want to become a data scientist, I'm going to share some insights about the kind of hard skills required for data scientist jobs. It's also sort of changing. It requires more deep learning and AI skills nowadays. So you definitely need to learn machine learning and learn more about cloud and big data. Yeah, I think it depends on how much effort you put into gaining these new skills. But if you have these skills, it's just I think data analysts will always have some advantage, because you have some relevant experience in the data industry already. Next question, I'm interested in knowing more about the hard skills. I will talk about hard skills. I have some visualization plots that I can share with you, and I'll focus on salary ranges as well for entry-level data scientists. So just bear with me, I'll get to that. Next question, do you think it's worth doing an internship first, right after finishing a data analytics certificate, or should we just focus on landing an entry-level job? I think if you have the chance, or you have the time to do an internship, it will definitely be worth it, because it's hard to get an entry-level job right now. You might spend 3 to 4 months and still not getting an entry-level job. Unlike before there are not a lot of entry-level jobs out there, actually. So companies are looking for more experienced candidates. So yeah, if you have internship and real client project experience, it's going to help a lot. And that's the best way to set yourself apart from the competitors. Just last week, we referred some students to a company called Home Trust. It's a lending company in the mortgage lending business, and they posted one data job, and within a week there are more than 1,000 applicants. Tell you that majority of people will not even get an interview, right? So for the students we referred, some of them are also not getting interviews, but having referral, they're definitely going to help you. But even, for a connection that has hired almost like 7, 8 students in the past in different companies, looks like they're also looking for more experienced, students or candidates. It's very interesting. So my answer is that if you can land an internship, it will help you a lot. So I would definitely recommend you go with that. Is it a very competitive market in Canada to land a DS job? Yeah, it's extremely competitive, but not just for DS, for any kind of data jobs. So yeah, before I answer more questions, maybe we can talk about the job market. So first of all, I would like to share some insights about the number of jobs. Well, I guess I have to set some expectations here. We're not very happy with the data we've collected so far. So there are some issues with the data integrity. First of all, the numbers definitely don't reflect the the true job market. We've collected data from only one job website. So, for example, LinkedIn is not included in this data set. That's something we're going to work on next. So it's from one of the websites, pretty popular website. And there are days where the data pipeline actually broke because this is a new project, so it's not actually in production yet. We haven't really automated that using Airflow yet. So yeah, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm more interested in sharing the trend instead of the absolute numbers, right? So I'm going to share some salary information with you. It actually looks like really high. So I question these numbers myself, but the team has put in some effort. So I still want to share with you, but I'm going to tell you how to understand these plots because I don't want to, mislead you. Okay. In terms of the number of jobs, well, let's just look at the overall trend. This actually is true, I think. I've seen this trend in the past two years. First of all, there are always more data analyst jobs out there. When I say data analyst jobs, right, it's not a perfect model right now yet. So if you go to one of those, job search website and you search for data analyst, you may get returned jobs that mention data, jobs that mention analyst, right? It could be marketing analyst, it could be some other type of data jobs. It could be data engineer. So we did some data cleaning. The next step we would like to do is that sometimes, even though the job description or the job title doesn't mention data analyst, but based on the job descriptions, you can create embeddings and it's basically a data analytics job. But those jobs are not included yet because we haven't included machine learning modeling in this analysis, right? So the data is still quite noisy. So, but if you look at the general trend, like, you go to LinkedIn, you go to like ZipRecruiter, or you go to Indeed, you will find definitely more data analyst jobs, right? And right now, the data engineering jobs and data scientist jobs are usually on par. You'll find same amount of jobs. Which means data engineering is definitely on the rise, right? It used to be, less data engineering jobs. Now it's increasing, which is good. And data scientists, the trend is like, it's always like the second most popular data jobs, right? Because the demand for data analytics is definitely higher and the hard skill requirement is relatively lower. So, which makes sense. And just 2 years ago, when we did some similar analysis, I think machine learning engineer was probably something like this. It's usually less than 30%, of the number of data scientist jobs. But you can see it's actually, the demand is increasing for machine learning engineer for sure, especially MLOps engineering. So that's something interesting to know. But looks like in the month of June, we start to see an increase in number of data jobs. I wouldn't give any conclusion because I think we need to look into some, spend more effort on data cleaning at this point. And also we just collected the month of July, but it hasn't been included in this analysis. So there's a job market report that we will publish in the month of August. So once that's ready, we'll let everyone know so you can read that in more detail. Okay. Now let's take a look at the regional distribution. So in Canada, I think the blue one, the one highlighted in blue, this is data analytics jobs. So definitely you can see there are more data analytics jobs. It's more concentrated in Ontario, right? Toronto. Definitely more data engineering jobs and data scientist jobs as well. So that trend is, is definitely true. More jobs, focused in Toronto especially. So that's not surprising, I think, if you're from Canada. In the US, this is the distribution of data analytics jobs. And this is where you can find most of the jobs. In the Silicon Valley, maybe in the Seattle areas, definitely Boston, New York, and in the Chicago area as well, right? So I think that's not surprising as well. That's for data analytics. Let's take a look at data science. I think the pattern is pretty similar. So the orange is data science, blue is data engineering, and there are less machine learning engineering jobs, and I think this also makes sense. You'll find more of those in some of these states. So depending where you are, if you live in those states, that's good news for you. But there are also, I think, a lot of remote jobs, even though employers are sort of urging, you know, employees to go back to work in the office. But I don't think people would enjoy doing that. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. So this is just the distribution. Now let's talk about salary. Regarding salary here, the number seems really high. So I had some questions from my team as well. So currently this is how we should understand this. First of all, it's very hard to get salary information. So about 30% of the jobs we've collected, they had some salary information, but they won't tell you exactly how much they're going to pay, because this is really just job description. It's not the offer, right? And also we found that only the senior jobs, because companies want to be more competitive, they actually post a range, the minimum and maximum range of those senior data scientists and machine learning engineering jobs. And that's how we get those numbers, right? For about 30% of the jobs that they have, like for junior jobs, companies usually don't post salary information. And then when they do provide that information, it's a range. So we sort of calculate, for each job, we take the minimum and the maximum, we calculate the average. So like we calculate the middle point. And then we calculate the average across the 30% of the jobs that we can find salary information. That's why the number is so high, right? It's not entry level. So if you're looking for entry level job, that's not how much you're going to get paid. But let's focus on the trend here. So we definitely clean up the data. We're just not ready for this presentation. First of all, well, this makes the overall trend makes sense, is encouraging, because as you get more years of experience, your salary will increase. That of course makes sense. But in general, I think machine learning engineers definitely get paid more, because you not only have deep learning skills, you're specialized in computer vision or maybe natural language processing, large language modeling. A lot of machine learning engineers also know how to deploy things in production. They may come from software engineering background, right? So that's higher than data science. But I don't think this reflects the overall like market, reality, because again, these are just 20-30% of the jobs that companies do post the salary range information, and these are on the higher end. We also looked at Glassdoor, and I would say in the US, right, on average, the senior data scientists get paid like around 150 to 160 US dollar. 150 like thousand, right? And it could be as high as 200,000, 300,000. But for big tech companies, they can pay you like $500,000 or even more, which is crazy. But it also depends on the total compensation. But just as an average job, right? 150,000 is the average, but the numbers we're seeing here is really high. But after some validation, we realized that because this is biased towards those jobs that actually do share salary information, and it's a range, so it's hard to say. But let's just focus on the trend. I think, for example, for data analytics, this is 1 year of experience, and on the high end, you can get up to 186. I don't know what the dip here means. Maybe less sample data size. So again, we'll publish a more accurate report later after we've done the cleaning. But looks like there's quite a bit, pretty big gap between data analyst and data scientist and data engineering. So that's not surprising, but something good to know. Okay. Some other insights. So if you look into, these jobs, you may care about the years of experience requirement, right? So this is for data analyst. It looks like there are actually more. So I think 50%, right? Half of the data analytics jobs require less than 3 years of experience. So like 1 year of experience and 2 years of experience. Again, and it depends on the years of experience parser. And we know that about 30 to 40% of the jobs, we can't find the years of experience requirement. It either means that our parser is not great, or some jobs just don't mention years of experience, right? So take it with a grain of salt. This analysis is done based on the 60 to 70% of the job descriptions that we can find years of experience requirement. And among those, about half of them are less than 3 years of experience. So those are junior jobs. When people say 1 to 2 years, that pretty much means it's a junior data analyst jobs. So I think that's a good news. Almost more than 60% of the jobs for BI data analytics is requires less than 3 years. So that means for people who would like to get into BI and data analytics, you can go after 60% of those jobs, right? That requires less than 3 years. And if in the past you had some experience that's related to data analytics and business analytics, that count towards your experience as well. So I think that's great news if you would like to get into data analytics. But again, probably there are also a lot more people who are competing out there. So just keep that in mind. And about 17 to 20% of the jobs ask for more than 5 years of experience. And that trend is very different when you look at data science and data engineering, right? So for data science, I believe this is data scientist. Yes. So the first thing I would notice is that about 30% of the job, right, ask for more than 5 years of experience. So there are more senior jobs out there. And also for data analytics, you see the trend is like this, but for data science, it's actually going up, which means companies do require more years of experience, right? Less than 30%, well, I think about 35% instead of like 52%, right, of the data scientist jobs require, so it looks like, about 35% to 40% of those are junior jobs that you can go after, right? But the rest of them are relatively senior jobs. The reason why you see a dip in 4 year, because when people write job descriptions, they either say, 1 to 2 years or 3+ years or 5+ years. Companies rarely mention like 4+ years. That's, right. It's, and that's why you don't see a lot of, 4 years or 6 years. Okay. So that's data science. For data engineering, I think it's similar. Let's take a look at it. About 39% of the jobs require less than 3 years of experience. But you do see that, I think the demand for senior data engineer data engineer is pretty high. And I think even higher for machine learning engineer. Interestingly, only 14% of the jobs in machine learning engineer is, considered as relatively junior. Almost 70%, no, 65% are 3+ years. So if you would like to work as a machine learning engineer, you definitely need more experience. But I think experience from data science, data engineering, or software engineering, all of these will count towards your relevant experience. All right, let's take a look at education. Well, first of all, data jobs. It looks like most of the data jobs actually just require bachelor's. But if you dive a little bit deeper, first of all, data analyst jobs and data engineering jobs, they rarely ask for PhD, which makes sense. You don't really need a PhD for data analytics, right? But, data science jobs and machine learning engineering jobs, about 11-12%, they'll mention PhD. And the requirement for master's degree will be higher. But still, if you look at data science, 50% of those jobs just require like a college degree or a bachelor's. Machine learning engineering even more so. It's interesting to see that actually data scientist jobs has more requirement for advanced degrees, because I think that also makes sense because part of machine learning engineering is actually ML ops. So you can come from software engineering background or come from data engineering background, and then you turn yourself into a machine learning engineer without focusing too much on NLP and computer vision. So that's one type of machine learning engineers. So hopefully this gives you some insight. But again, the caveat here is that this is, there are certain jobs that you simply cannot find any degree information or requirement for education. Those are not included in this analysis. Okay, but still the sample size should be big enough. This is 1 month's worth of data we collected. You're probably very interested in the hard skills. So let's take a look at the hard skills. For data analytics, the top 3 or top 4 will be SQL. So if you see like 1,222, that means among all the data analytics jobs we collected, SQL got mentioned like 1,200 times. That's pretty significant. But I believe that this includes business data analytics jobs as well that don't really require Python. Python is still, the second most popular or in-demand skills for data analytics. So, and also show you that data analysts who know Python will get paid more. There's some interesting analysis there. Visualization is definitely very important. Power BI or Tableau. Tableau is still, I think, one of the most popular visualization or dashboard tool, but Power BI is becoming more and more popular for sure. Okay. For data science, Python, SQL, and R. We've done this analysis a couple of times, and it's not surprising every time, like Python, SQL, and R, they will show up on the top, among the top 3. Python and R, they're frequently mentioned together. But as you can see, I think the popularity of R in the job market is also decreasing, I believe. Looks like Tableau is also important for data scientists. I need to look into the data integrity. I think there might be some data analytics jobs that got mixed into the data scientist job. So we'll definitely point this out in the actual report we're going to publish. But there are more data cleaning we need to do. But the overall trend definitely makes sense. Deep learning is becoming more important for data science jobs. And also big data. So this totally makes sense to me. And also I'll show you that data scientists who know deep learning and big data also tend to get paid more. Okay. For data engineering, it's not surprising that cloud and big data, there are definitely important skills data engineers who need to know, and also Redshift, which is data warehousing related. I'm a little bit surprised to see why Snowflake is not here, but I'll look into that. And Scala and Java also make sense because there are a lot of data engineering jobs that require ETL and big data and Hadoop. They sort of expect the data engineers to know some Java because Hadoop was written in Java and Spark was developed in Scala. But PySpark is also fairly popular, so you don't have to be a Java developer in order to become a data engineer. But the fact that there are a lot of job postings mentioning Java and Scala tells you that it's also important. But based on my experience, I can tell you that most of the jobs will mention that you need to know one of those programming languages like Scala, Java, and Python. So it doesn't mean that you have to know Java, okay? For machine learning engineering, no surprise, 2 of the most popular frameworks, TensorFlow, PyTorch, deep learning, and cloud. It's interesting to see SQL here. But one interesting trend is that machine learning engineers do need to work with SQL sometimes because data extraction and data pipeline is important. But if you focus more on the SQL side, then average salary will be lower. So let's take a look at that analysis. So let's take a look at data analyst. What my team did here was that they divided the I think the salary into 4 different tiers. These are equal sized, tiers. So the blue bar and the red bars here, their sample size is the same. Tier 1 data analyst means that this is the highest paid tier. Tier 4 is the lowest paid tier for data analyst jobs. And you can see that data analyst who knows SQL and Python, okay, they tend to get paid more. So you're going to see more Python requirement and SQL requirement in tier 1 data analytics, which makes sense because I think in tier 4 data analytics jobs, there might be, jobs that still require like Excel, for example, that doesn't require like SQL, for example. So that kind of makes sense. So if you want to become a data analyst, you definitely need to learn SQL and Python. They're the top, most popular skills anyways, right? But interestingly, if there are data analyst jobs that mention like cloud platforms, such as Azure, AWS, Hadoop and Spark. So these are some of the companies that have big data and they require the data analyst, to be able to work with big data. It doesn't mean you need to be expert in distributed systems, but you need to be able to work with Apache Spark, for example, PySpark or Spark SQL, and you'll get paid more. That probably is because the companies that post this kind of jobs, they tend to, have relatively higher average salaries anyways. And they're more likely to be SaaS companies, it looks like. So that's interesting. So my takeaway from this is that I think if you, have completed some data analytics certification and you would like to get a higher paying data analyst jobs or expose yourselves to more opportunities that require like big data skills, and try to learn big data. It's going to help you for your career. Data engineering. So again, red is tier 4, so lower salary, right? I'm just looking for the blue bars that are higher than the red ones, like AWS. But for data engineering, so if you know streaming data, right? Kafka, Scala, data warehouse, and Hadoop. So basically it means that if you're more special, like Spark here, if you're more specialized in big data. So there are different types of data engineers. There are analytics engineers, there's big data engineers, and also data engineers who specialize in streaming data analysis or real-time analytics, right? So if you know more about the cloud platforms, big data, streaming, you're definitely going to get paid more. So that's what this graph tells us. I wouldn't worry too much about the difference here because honestly, the data is not that perfect. We need to do more cleaning for sure. All right, let's take a look at data scientist. That's probably what you guys are here for. Very interesting thing to observe here is that if you know Python, you tend to be paid more. I'm not sure if this is the right way to conclude this, but looks like there are more tier 4 data scientist jobs that ask about R. That's interesting. And if you're a data scientist that focus more on data like Tableau and visualization, that's pretty much a data analyst job. Then you're more likely to be paid, tier 4 or lower salary. But what's going to get you paid more as a data scientist? PyTorch, TensorFlow, deep learning. So, well, invest yourself, invest more time in learning generative AI, I guess, deep learning, and also Spark, big data. Okay. So that's for data science jobs. Machine learning engineering. See if there is any interesting trend here. Looks like, again, deep learning. So if you're a machine learning engineer focusing on deep learning, then you will get paid more, relatively speaking. But another trend here, if you know more about, if you are the type of ML engineers that focus on cloud infrastructure, Kubernetes, Spark, everything about scaling and deployment, you're going to get paid more. So that's two different types of ML engineers, right? ML engineers that specialize in deep learning, or ML engineers that specialize in ML ops engineering. And if, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense, at least to myself. So let me know your thoughts. That's the salary and years of experience requirement. And let's talk about soft skills. This analysis is not completed yet. But this is for data analyst. I think we still need to scrub up the list here. But looks like, communication skills, right? In general, for data analytics jobs, definitely, analysis is important. I don't find other interesting trend here. So I think there's some, it really depends on the list of keywords that we use as soft skills. And I know there's some important skills that keywords that are probably not included in here. For example, this is for data engineer. You'll see that design is more important. So I guess my guess here is that maybe data engineering, job postings will mention like, designing some kind of pipelines or designing the data architecture or something like that more often. But I'll have to actually dive a little bit deeper and look at those job postings and clean up the list of keywords furthermore. So yeah, so that's the analysis we've done so far. I think we are halfway through this analysis, but once we complete that, we'll let everyone know. We either host another session or we can share a formal report with everyone so you can use that as a reference for job search. And in the next analysis, we should have 3 months of data. So they're more trend related, more trends we can share with everyone. That's about it. So if you have any questions, let me know, or if you have any comments. I see there are a lot of comments here. So I'm going to go through them and see if I can offer some suggestions. Okay, there's a question about what companies hire data scientists without a master. That will be included in the next step. Our team did some analysis about companies, but companies really very relevant to the local job market, right? So I think we're going to publish the report based on where you are. So we'll have some job market analysis for some of the major cities in North America. So by that time, you should be able to tell like which companies in, let's say in Seattle, will hire more data scientists. That's something we're actively working on. I think that would be very insightful. So stay tuned. We'll probably publish that over the next 2 weeks. To begin with, is Power BI enough for BI analyst role? Yeah, definitely. But Power BI is a tool for you to do data modeling and also do visualization. So SQL is actually the most important. And if you're really good at SQL, you just need to learn one of the popular visualization tool, whether it's Power BI or Tableau. Just pick one of these and get really good at it. Build some portfolio, and then that will help you get a job. But of course, you need to have a portfolio first, right? You need to have the hard skills, and you have to have a decent resume. But once you get interviews, I think to be able to pass interviews to get an offer, that requires a different set of skills. So you do need to improve the interview skills as well. We'll have interview workshop from time to time, so stay tuned. What date ranges are considered? I think that we started collecting data end of May all the way till actually end of till today. But for this analysis, I think, as I mentioned, the data pipelines broke in the month of July. We're trying to rescrape the data. So this analysis is up till July the 3rd. So that's about 1 month, like 5 weeks of data. in total about 5 to 6,000 jobs. Yeah, across 4 different job roles. Question from Mike. What about landscape change in the era of large language model? That's something we would like to do. So we haven't really included generative AI as the search keyword. So that's the next step. So stay tuned. I definitely think this is a very interesting trend. So in my next talk, I would definitely want to share some insights on generative AI and large language models. I'm assuming it's going to explode. So I'm very curious myself as well. Question from Perry, how to transition from software development to data science? I think if you come from software engineering background, it's actually very relevant. So I think what you need to learn, so Python and SQL shouldn't be a big challenge for you. You probably have worked with both. So you should focus on data science skills and machine learning skills. To be more specific, I think I've worked with a lot of software engineers in the past, and I found that they don't consider data science as, from a coding perspective, data science is fairly easy and straightforward. Like you wouldn't think of data science, like working on data science and machine learning as like very challenging from a coding or programming perspective, right? You're dealing with notebooks or writing some Python scripts. So that part is easy. But I noticed that a lot of software engineers, like, because maybe they don't come from a data analytics background, so writing the code is very easy for them, but they just don't dig into the data enough. That's probably because some software engineers I've worked with, they're not really interested in data. They are still more interested in building applications. So, and unfortunately, data analysis requires a lot of like patience. There are different scenarios, like data go wrong, right? You have to challenge yourself. I mean, look at this plot, like you have to spend 5 minutes on it and, basically just challenge yourself. Like, is this even correct? You have to ask yourself a lot of questions. Unfortunately, that doesn't require programming at all, right? And you have to have assumptions and then you have to go back and write the same queries and change a few parameters and, right, wait for the queries to complete. But data scientists and data analysts will be excited when they discover something new, like the new insight they discover. But it doesn't mean that you need to write a lot of code, right? So if that's something you actually are interested in doing, then my recommendation is definitely start from like data manipulation, right? You just need to learn how to write queries. When you work as a developer, it's more about CRUD, right? You're retrieving data and you're saving or writing data to the database. But now the queries you write is more about merging tables and doing aggregations, right? You're analyzing the entire table instead of just dealing with each transactional records. I think that's one big change. And then you need to start to pick up statistics and machine learning. I would always recommend starting with the classic machine learning algorithms because still, like, the majority of the ML problems out there, like especially in companies, are structured data, right? And so the traditional methods will still be very popular. And after that, you should probably start to learn more about deep learning, especially with large language modeling and generative AI. We are not the ones that are going to develop and train those large foundational models. What we're going to do is basically fine tune these models, finding the right data set, right, label the data, and then do the fine tuning. And then software engineers or data scientists coming from software engineering background will need to deploy the machine learning models and build AI-powered applications. I think that's the exciting part for someone who's coming from software development background, because I think that will fit your interest really well, and you pick up AI, large language model skills along the way. So that would be my recommendation. But coming from software engineering background is always going to be one of your advantages. There's a question from Vivian. How do you stand out in front of other applicants, I highly recommend you watch the recording of my previous event where I talk about how to build like resumes. But in short, I think it depends on where you come from. Like if you come from a non-tech background, or you are a new grad trying to get into the industry, I think so that means on your resume you won't have relevant experience yet. So if that's the case, you need to work on really interesting projects. And it should not be only limited to Kaggle projects. So there are different ways to find projects to work on, right? You can find Kaggle projects. That's, I think, the sort of the default route that everyone would do. But you rarely find Kaggle. Well, you have to find a Kaggle problem that not many people have worked on, and it needs to be interesting, right? Or maybe related to the industry you would like to get into. That's something you have to think about. A better way to do this is, are you able to come up with your own original idea and even collect the data yourself? I know it's easier said than done. It's a lot of effort to even, think of, a data science problem or challenge, and then you start to collect data. And, you can do a lot of web scraping, but I think one of the biggest challenges is, do you have the right labels, right, to be used for model training? But that's something you need to think about. But collecting your own data will definitely help you stand out. It's just more effort put into it, right? And you have to make more decisions when you work on your own project. And also for data science portfolio building, if you skip the data preparation part, then your project has, the value was probably, only half the value you can realize, because it's a big part of the data science, journey when you work on the project. So you should definitely at least get data sets that allow you to load, a few tables into the database and use SQL to prepare the data. Even though you can write 2 lines of code to load that into Python, I would still recommend you do that using SQL, because data extraction, data preparation is usually done in databases instead of running on your laptop using Python, right? And that will help you. So again, try to find Kaggle. That's probably just for exercises and small projects, and see if you can come up with your original idea. But the best way is just to find internships or find some sort of real project opportunities, or see if you can find some kind of freelance jobs. But in order to get a freelance job, I guess you have to have some portfolio so they can convince people to give you the opportunity. So it's not easy, but I think that's one of the few ways that can help you stand out. But going through, getting a certificate is not going to add a lot of advantage in that. I think in today's job market, as I told you at the beginning, like one data jobs, you're probably competing against like 500 to 1,000 other competitors. So it's hard to stand out. So again, this is the first dimension, right? You have to improve your skills and make your portfolio project stand out. And then another dimension is the network, right? Do networking, find mentors, reach out to recruiters. Well, that's a lot of work you need to do. But unfortunately, that's very, very important as well. So I think it's just more preparation you need to do. The more hard work you put into job search, the quicker you can get a job. There's no shortcut, looks like. Yeah. What's the high season for job posting? Summer is definitely slow because a lot of people go on vacation. Usually it's February, March, there are more jobs. Right after Christmas, and companies start to sort of post jobs. And in the fall, right? September, October, November, you'll find more jobs as well. Yeah. Is it possible to get a job as a fresher? As I explained, I think about 40% of the data analyst jobs, right? And 35% to 30% of the, 50% of the data analytics jobs, and about 30 to 40% of the data science jobs require less than 3 years of experience. These are jobs for you. So basically 30-40% of the jobs out there, you can apply for them. If it says 1 to 2 years and you're a new grad, you should go after those jobs. And even if the job asks for 3 years, I think you should still apply for it. You never know. The chance of getting interviews was obviously smaller, but considering the job market is very competitive, I think you should give it a try. Because yeah, you never know, because we have had students who applied for jobs that require more than let's say 5-7 years of experience. It was one of the referral cases we worked on, and the student actually did get interviews and made it to the last round. He didn't get the offer, but apparently if you have an awesome portfolio, people will appreciate it and give you some opportunity. But then if the student used the same resume to apply for jobs on the company's portal, I guess he's not going to get a chance. But through referral, he actually made it to the last round. So again, I think referrals, network connections, and also your portfolio projects and how hard you apply for jobs, these all will come together. I think these are all important efforts you need to make. If yes, how many targeted projects does one need in the resume? I think for new grads and career switchers, you need to have 3 to 4 projects at least. I used to say like 2 solid projects. If you have a 1-page resume, I think 2 to 3 projects, and they need to be like good and solid projects with link to GitHub pages, and those will be useful. Yeah, but definitely no less than 3 projects. Exercises you've done, like using Kaggle data sets, those probably don't count as a portfolio project because it's too academic. I think what you should put on the resume as a portfolio project should include things like data preparation, right? Or even better, like data collection, right? And then loading data into databases, data cleaning and preparation, and exploratory data analysis. So like 50 to 60% of the effort happens before you even start the modeling. And then you do machine learning interpretation and maybe build a dashboard even to explain your machine learning model. That's more end-to-end process. I think you need to have at least 2 of those projects with that scope. Okay. I'm currently completing a boot camp in software engineering. What kind of overlap is there between software engineering and data science? That's a good question. If you come from software engineering background, let's say just you're completing a boot camp, I wouldn't recommend you investing more time into data science, but this is maybe the part you can skip and then just move on to large language modeling, because generative AI is very hot right now, and you see a ton of startups out there. They have some good ideas. They would like to leverage, the GPT algorithms or whatever, Llama 2 by Facebook, those open source large language models, and they're building applications on top of it. So you just need to do fine tunings. That's really great opportunity. But a lot of those companies will die very soon because they couldn't find a profitable business model, or they get acquired by bigger players. But at least in the next 3 to 5 years, I think there are golden opportunities there. But the challenge here is not about data science. It's more about leveraging the large models that got trained by Meta and Google and those companies like Stability AI. And then it's being able to build a good user experience, like an application that has good user experience and also leverage AI. That's very important. So I don't think that's something data scientists will be able to build, because you still need to deploy those applications in production, and so your users can interact with the AI component, right? So if you work as a backend engineer, I think this is exciting time for backend engineers, because you get to work with those large language models. And so my recommendation is, if you would like to learn more after you complete the software engineering program, then you should probably do some self-learning on large language modeling, as well as MLOps, how to deploy models and, package models and deploy that, so that you can actually build some really cool AI-powered application. And the good thing about, these models nowadays is that you don't have to start from scratch, and software engineers will be able to leverage powerful open source models to do a lot of cool stuff. But it used to be, privilege of, data scientists and machine learning engineers, right? So I think this also sort of changed the job market dynamic a little bit. That's why you'll see data scientist jobs asking more deep learning, right? As well as like big data. And I think deployment also got mentioned in the data scientist key skills. So companies are indeed looking for data scientists who can actually not only work with Jupyter notebooks to do experiments, but also deploy modeling, in production. So the line between data scientists and machine learning engineers is even more blurred now. So I think in the future, if you want to stay competitive as a data scientist, you need to learn more about AI and model deployment. But that also creates the opportunity for software engineers who already are strong in building software to learn more about data science and machine learning to build applications. So it's going to be interesting, I think. Yeah. I have 7+ years of experience in analytics, data analysis, and visualization. What might be the average time taken to land a job for people with hands-on experience? I think if you have 7 years of experience in analytics already, are you talking about landing a data analytics job or data scientist job? If it's data scientist job, I think you still need to have a very strong data science portfolio. Because what I noticed is that if you are a data analyst, sometimes data analyst like resumes tend to get ignored because employers sort of tend to think that they're just not data scientists, right? So I think you'll need to highlight your data science experience on your resume, and sometimes it could be challenging actually. So you need to have really interesting and solid portfolio. Again, it comes back to how strong your portfolio project experience is. If you're using your 7 years of data analyst experience to apply for data scientist jobs, you still need to show very relevant machine learning experience. But your advantage is that you have really great, strong SQL and Python experience or business communication skills already. Then yeah, the focus should be on machine learning, and that will help you. As an undergrad student, how should I approach finding a mentor? There are a lot of very good mentoring website out there. I think you just need to Google. I think we have a service called WeCareer, career mentorship. So you can go to wecareer.ai. It's part of WeCloudData, but you can talk to us. We can help you find mentors as well. But there are a lot of other ways that you can find mentors. One way I would like to recommend is just do cold calling. Prepare a portfolio project, and then reach out to data scientists that you would like to learn, you would like to work with as a mentor. So like if you just go approach someone and say, can you become a mentor? I think the chance is very low. But if you already have a portfolio project and you send it to people and ask them for advice, I think people are more likely to respond to you, and then you'll get a mentor. So starting that, that process is very important, and just keep trying. Just ignore those rejections or people not responding at all. That's okay. You only care about those who respond to you, and the mentors who you're interested in working with probably get a ton of requests as well. So it takes some persistence. Definitely try, and then just get more prepared, right? For the current competitive job market, what kind of candidate profile can get an entry-level job? Yeah. Even for entry-level jobs, because of the competitiveness, I think it's hard to stand out, right? But I believe the job market is getting better based on what we have seen, and also the students getting interviews and getting offers in the past few months. January and February was horrible this year, and also last December. It's definitely getting better, but as you've seen, like it does require more years of experience. But if you want to build a strong profile, you'll have to. I think I'm repeating myself, though. You need to have a strong portfolio. But what makes a good portfolio? Maybe we should have a session just on this. We did some sessions on how to build portfolio project in the past. My recommendation here again is if you're going to put Kaggle project on your resume in today's job market, it's not going to help you a lot. And the type of projects that's going to get people's attention, hiring managers' attention, is it's either very relevant to the industry they are in, or it's a very unique project that people haven't seen very often in the past. I'll give you some examples. We had students who sort of picked projects based on their personal interest. In our data engineering program, we had a student who's into gaming. He likes to play video games, and and then he decided to build an end-to-end like gaming data, whatever, real-time gaming data analytics pipeline, right? He used some of the latest tech stacks. Like he wrote some C# code to ingest data, because I think that gaming application had an API, which is in C#. It doesn't have Python, so he had to learn some C# and wrote some pipeline so to ingest data, right? And then he implemented everything on AWS. So when he actually recorded his project presentation, he did some live demo. It's interesting. Like I haven't seen a lot of like real-time data engineering pipelines dealing with, a lot of people do like IoT data or some mock data, but he's actually just playing the game live, and at the same time on another screen we see the real-time dashboard. That's pretty cool. And so he got 2 job offers, right, last year in a tough job market. And 6 months before he joined the data engineering program, he didn't even know how to code. It took him about 9 months, I think. He spent a ton of effort on building his project, and he also wasn't that confident, but the result was surprisingly good. Another example was a student from a data science bootcamp. The student likes fishing, so his project was actually web scraping. It was one of the data science projects he did. So he scraped. I think the website he used was. He's a Canadian student, so he scraped fishingontario.ca or .com, and that was a website that was pretty hard to scrape. So he used Selenium and some of the packages, but that was interesting because I haven't seen a lot of fishing related projects, but he collected his own data. That made a huge difference. And then they wrote a blog post, and even someone from San Francisco, it was an employer from a startup, reached out and said, do you want to have an interview? So I'll tell you that if you have interest in project, you'll get people's attention. So Kaggle projects, not very useful, because for every Kaggle project you can find on kaggle.com, there might be like more than 50 solutions are up like already, right? So it doesn't make it very unique. So if you can't really find data sets, then just go with a Kaggle data set, but try to find more sophisticated ones that has definitely avoid Kaggle data like projects that only has one CSV, like train.csv and test.csv. That's like an exercise. It's not a project. Right? And always choose project based on some sort of industry vertical. Like choose a specific vertical, like insurance, or are you into e-commerce? Then for e-commerce, maybe you should do recommendation systems. or things like that. They have to do some research, understand different use cases in each industry, and then go out there and find data set. That's something I would recommend. And writing blog posts will help as well, because that sort of document your thought process and learning process. And I can tell you, not a lot of people will be willing to put in the effort to put down the effort to write a blog post or keep doing that, like for 6 months, for example. You document your entire learning journey, and then you had 10 blog posts. Every single student in our bootcamp who had blog posts, they can get jobs fast, because employers appreciate the effort. Like, you're a junior hire, but the way you present yourself is very different. When you tell people that you're passionate about data science, there are a lot of different ways you can prove that. You write blog posts, you built your own project, right? You attended boot camps, you did a ton of reading yourself, and these will all add up, right? What about US companies hiring Canadians with a presence here? Yeah, we have a lot of well, I wouldn't say a lot of students. Like during COVID, we see more students getting hired by US employers. And interesting, one student, they actually paid the student US dollar, and he had to convert do the currency conversion himself as well. It was kind of interesting. So that's an employer that doesn't have a presence in Canada. He's more like a freelancer, but it's a contract job. But there are also US firms that that have Canadian branches that hire. But your pay will be lower, and that's probably, I guess, the one of the advantages you have here in Canada. There's a pretty big pay gap when it comes to data jobs between US and Canada. How do openings compare between Canada and the USA? We did some analysis. I think usually it's 10 times bigger in the US, sort of correlated with the population difference. So it's usually 10 times. If you find 1,000 jobs in the US, that would probably be 100 in Canada. Yeah. I think the numbers we collect, it should be US dollar. Yeah, which is a little bit crazy here. So that's why I really want to point out that we want to fix this, because right now, or at least add more annotation here, it's the 30% of jobs that do mention salary, and they're never going to mention just one number, because that's not the offer. It's really job description. So some websites like Indeed or some other websites, when you post jobs, and we sometimes post jobs to hire operations, sales, and project managers, they ask you to provide a range. So there's a minimum and there's the maximum. So we sort of just did the average. So this data is definitely for like senior data scientists in the US. So yeah, some of the missing data I mentioned was actually for the Canada market. So the next report we release will have much more complete picture. From a LinkedIn job post for a US company hiring remote workers, how does one determine if the remote worker can be from Canada, or is it, post from a US company hiring remote workers. How does one determine if the remote worker can be from Canada, or is it remote only in the USA? Oh, I guess you have to read the job description, or maybe just ask them. You really have to check. Yeah. When we did the data collection, we did find that, let's say some companies, for example, KPMG, when they post jobs, they actually post a job in different market. It's the same job description, but the job is available in different regions as well. So that was kind of interesting. Also created some headache for data cleaning. And thanks, Mitch, for helping out here. What is the sample size for this data? I think in total it's about 5,000 to 6,000 data points. Yeah, there are about 2,000 data analyst jobs and 1,000 data scientist jobs. So in total, I think 6,000 sample size for 1 month. Is data scientist a purely technical role? What about if data scientists want to transition into strategic management or senior management role? That happens a lot, actually. I remember my first, the director of my first job, I sort of followed him and then joined BlackBerry, and we started the data science team. He used to be a data analyst, right? But very briefly, he got promoted. He's, to become the manager and director, and then he's the CTO at a pretty big media company now. He's basically, a data analytics or data analyst switching to strategic management. And that's very common. That's one of the career path. So if you start as a technical data scientist, and then you can transition into, go down to managerial position. I've seen a lot of data scientists becoming product managers as well, but like product manager focusing on data products, right? One of our machine learning instructors that taught with us about 2 years ago, now it become like a product manager at Amazon. So yeah, that's very common. It's very common for software engineers and data scientists switch into product managers, and especially in the big tech companies. So that's definitely one career path you can go down. And also data scientists and data analysts both work with the business very closely, because you're solving very practical challenges. If your job is more focused on research and building like the best algorithms, you're probably like machine learning scientist. But data scientists usually work, in the product team, or they're sort of embedded into the marketing analytics team. So their stakeholders are usually internal business teams. It's either the director or VP of it, of a marketing team, or the risk management team. So data science teams are like the internal consulting team. So yeah, so there's a good chance for you to move into the management positions if you're good with, with people and also communications. The numbers misleading. Yeah. So let us work on these, and we'll provide a more realistic number. But I hope I've explained like why the number is high here. It's a little bit, it's because of the data we collected, and we have to do more cleaning. But thanks for the feedback. 1 to 2 years can be replaced with no experience though, right? I don't quite get the question. Mitch, do you want to maybe repeat your question? But I think if a job is asking for like 1 to 2 years, basically people who don't have experience should apply for it, definitely. Usually companies will post, 5+ years. That's something like ideally, that's ideal situation, right? But I think employers also have, they also have their challenges. Sometimes it's the budget. The best candidate might want to work for Facebook, Meta, Google, because they can simply pay more, or the best candidate with the right salary expectation can also get multiple offers. So you may not even get the candidate to sign a contract with you. So a lot of times I think employers will end up like hiring someone who doesn't meet all of their requirements, but who can actually prove that they're the right fit. So yeah, it's rare that like the 3+ or 5+ years is like a harder requirement. I think companies should hire based on like how capable the person is. It's not really, I think in data analytics, especially like for data engineering and machine learning engineering, the tools and tech stack are changing very frequently. So, some of the tools you worked in the past, even though you had years of experience, it may become like the legacy tools already, such as Hadoop. So that would be my recommendation. What is the differentiators between difference between data analysts, data scientists, and data engineers? So if you think about how a data product is built in a company, right? If you want to build a data product, you need to have a good, business case. Like, what kind of product do you want to, build, and what kind of market and audience you would like to address? What's the problem, right? And then very quickly you realize that, well, you need to have the right data. What kind of, if we build a software or application, right, it generates data. So you need to sort of collect the data and start the data ingestion process, and you have to build databases or data warehouse. So these are the things that data engineers will come in and help the company build pipelines and build data lakes and build data warehouses. And once you have the data ready in the data warehouse or in any kind of data analytics databases, data analysts will be working with those, data or tables stored in database and write queries to build the business intelligence to answer business questions, right? So data analysts will be analyzing data. They either build dashboard, but actually most of the time they might just work on ad hoc data analysis, because business will have a lot of questions that they cannot answer directly. So they have to rely on the business analyst and data analyst to write queries, to work with the data, so the company can be more data-driven and be well informed, right? And the data scientists will be working on more advanced analytics, right? So if you want to do predictive analytics, right, you not only know what happened, because some of the questions the data analyst can write queries to address is like, what happened, right? Or why something happens. And the data analysts need to understand the product and some of the, the new product releases, new features, so they can sort of relate some of the data points with, the product, right, or the features, to answer why. But data scientists will usually help with, the future, right? So how to prevent something from happening, or how can we identify the high-risk customer even before they churn, right? So that requires, analyzing the historical data, build data science or machine learning models, and use that to predict the future. I think that's what the data scientists would do. So even though they're using Python and SQL, similar tools, the focus will be very different. Data engineers will be preparing, building the data infrastructure layer, right? Getting the data pipelines, getting the data ready, basically. I may have oversimplified it, but and then data analysts will be mining those data, right? Answer ad hoc business questions and build dashboard to keep track of the business performance. And data scientists will be doing predictive analytics on top of those data to help the company either make more money, acquire better customers, or save cost. Do we need advanced statistics knowledge to do a data scientist job? Yeah, I think you do. But it doesn't mean that you need to know a lot about the traditional statistics. It depends on the nature of your data scientist job. Some data scientist jobs actually require a lot of statistical knowledge. Like if you're doing a lot of the statistical testing, like A/B testing, doing product analytics, you do need to understand statistics well. But if you are helping your company build like predictive models, statistics is a part of it, but companies tend to use machine learning more. So some of the machine learning algorithms are less, so a lot of them come from statistics, but some of those are not really using, p-values anymore. For example, in statistics, people tend to explain regression models using p-values, right? Statistical significance testing and things like that. It's not that common in machine learning. In some of the packages like scikit-learn, it doesn't even calculate p-value directly. So the predictive accuracy or the performance of model is more important. So yeah. So in that sense, I think understand the end-to-end machine learning process and being able to really do feature engineering and prepare the data sometimes become more important than the statistics itself. But statistics is definitely important knowledge you need to have in order to even understand some of those machine learning concepts. Okay. Another question, are these tech skills for US? Yeah, I think it's for US and Canada. Where can I get access to the report? So yeah, so the report is not ready yet. So this is very preliminary analysis. we will publish the report and let everyone know. We'll probably have another session. So if you have signed up for this event, we'll probably send you an email later to that includes the report. It should be ready in the next 2 weeks, I think. Have you guys done a breakdown of how these roles skew in terms of soft versus hard skills, or basically this breakdown, but soft skills include? I think some of these questions are asked when I go through some of the, the visualization. So sorry about that. I should have stopped and addressed some of these questions. I see no mention of Snowflake here. Yeah, that was my question when I saw that. I think Snowflake somehow is not in the list of keywords that we analyze. So in the next version, we should definitely have Snowflake. I think Snowflake should be quite up there, like in the top skills list. Yeah. Any information on which data warehouse are most prevalent? This really depends. If you pay attention to the tech news, you probably notice that Snowflake is very dominant in the news. But if you look at the actual implementations, it really depends on which tech stack the companies go with. If the company go with AWS, even though the team wants to use Snowflake, but this the AWS sales might actually sell Redshift really hard and give them the good discount, so the company might end up picking Redshift. And Redshift was one of the very first cloud data warehouse and still very powerful. So when you make a tech decision, like tech stack decision, sometimes cost is also an important consideration here. And also launching Redshift is pretty straightforward in AWS, so company might end up using like Redshift. Even though maybe Snowflake is better. It depends on the use cases. If the company go with Google Cloud, then BigQuery is a no-brainer, but of course, there are companies that use Snowflake and migrate to Snowflake. Companies using Azure, I'm pretty sure the Azure sales team will try to push, the Azure Synapse Analytics. It has SQLless, the serverless, Spark Pool. It works pretty well with Databricks as well. So it really depends on the cloud infrastructure first. And if the company doesn't want to get locked into, I guess, AWS or Azure, then they might want to go with a cloud agnostic, data warehouse such as Snowflake. And a lot of small, really tiny companies start with PostgreSQL as a data warehouse, which is also quite common. And when they get more sophisticated, then they'll move on to, Snowflake. You don't need Java for DE, instead focus on PySpark. I would agree with that, but there are also teams, it depends on the data engineering team's culture. There's some, big data companies that I know, they prefer their data engineers to write Scala code, because Spark was developed in Scala. But PySpark is even more popular, I guess, than Scala now, because there are more Python users out there. But yeah, I think it kind of depend, but I think most of the employers or teams will be okay. If it's just ETL code, they will be okay with, either Scala or Python, but it will still be nice to sort of stick with one programming language instead of two. So I think the company will have to decide. Yeah, I mean, Java is still very popular in the banks, right? Can you briefly explain what you mean by big data and how can someone gain experience with it, or if not currently employed in data jobs? I think not every company has a big data problem. For smaller startups, I think they are more likely to adopt, SaaS tools like, let's say, Snowflake, so they can focus more on SQL, because most of the engineers and developers, they know SQL really well. So it's a no-brainer for them to adopt like a SQL-based solution. But when you're, let's say you build a pretty successful product and you start to have millions of users, then you're going to have a big data problem, because there are a lot of events you're ingesting into the data lake. And the companies may start to realize that the databases will start to run slowly because you have a lot of users generating a lot of events, and the traditional relational database is probably not able to keep up, and they start to do more distributed, work with distributed systems. When you start to have like terabytes and terabytes of data, writing the queries, right? If you run everything in Snowflake, then the cost might be high. And also, how do we get all of these data? Let's say a simple chat application, right? A messaging app, let's say. They actually collect more than 1,000. They can collect thousands of events. And if you have millions of users, each user can generate like thousands of events on a daily basis. Imagine like when you use TikTok, there's so many activities you make on TikTok, right? Every time you flip to a different video, you like something, you favorite something, all of these generate events. So when you work with those companies, relational database is not the solution to everything. So they have to first of all figure out how to store the big data. And then the cost of storing the data in the data lake will be a lot cheaper. And that's why there are companies that go with a data lake approach, right? You can store data in Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage. And once you have all of these big data stored in data lake, then you need to have a querying tool to analyze and query those tools. And loading them into databases, again, it's a lot of work, and you have to write SQL, right? So Spark is just one of these distributed system or tools that you can use to access and analyze those, process those big data. And that happened to require some special like skills. Not anymore, I would say. Like in the past, you do need to understand the internals and distributed systems and MapReduce. But I think now the APIs, like the data frame APIs, I think working with Spark is a lot easier than the past. But still, I think it's a beast, and there's a lot you need to learn, especially how to tune Spark job performance. But seriously, there are a lot of things you need to manage. So that's why some companies would like to go with an easy approach. They just go with like Snowflake, and now Snowflake is also competing head to head with Databricks, right, in the big data world. They also start to look similar. It's very interesting, but yeah, but you use big data when your data set and customer base reach certain scale. But if you only have like 50, 100, 200 gig of data, don't bother. It's an overkill. That's why maybe 30, 40% of the jobs out there, data engineering jobs out there, will mention Spark. But if you do have that skill, I think on average you'll get paid more. Because companies who have big data problems, they are at that scale. They have millions of customers, and they have more funding. They can probably pay you more, right? How do we access the report? We'll send emails to everyone, or we will do another event to go through the updated the report. Unfortunately, I missed the first 30 minutes of the meeting. I'm wondering if you could get the meeting recording. Yes, the recording will be uploaded to YouTube. So let me share the YouTube link, and you can check it out and join our Discord as well. But yeah, youtube.com slash at WeCloudData. That's where you find the recordings. On Discord, I think you'll get notification as well. So yeah, stay tuned. I think you're mixing the tools with the science. TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch are tools, whereas deep learning is the core science. Yeah, I agree with you. But I think these are the tools and skills that will be frequently mentioned in the job descriptions, right? So that's why we show them on the same plot. But I totally agree with you. Yeah. Do you have any data regarding the numbers of geospatial data science jobs? Unfortunately, we don't. We haven't really looked into this, but let me take a note, so maybe we can look into that. I'm actively looking for data analyst jobs and recent graduate in May 2023 in data science and business analytics with 7 years. Okay, so I think you asked similar questions and I have already talked about it. Were the more obscure languages like Scala, AWS more likely to land you a job, or just skills that your report is saying that you'll tend to get paid more for? That's also a good question. Let me think about this. But honestly, if you know Scala really, really well, even though there are not a lot of pure Scala jobs out there, and most of those Scala jobs, if they get mentioned, since we're only scraping like data engineering jobs, so it's most likely related to Kafka and some of the tech stacks like Kafka and Spark. So there are teams that build everything in Scala in the Spark ecosystem. So you are more likely to stand out, I think, for that specific group of job opportunities. But most of the data engineering jobs out there, knowing Python, PySpark is good enough. So most of those people will not qualify for some of those Scala like jobs requiring specific Scala skills. But you're more like a software engineer working on data engineering problems, so you tend to get paid more, I guess. Are salary reviews on levels, FYI, close to reality? Actually, I need to look into that. I looked at their website for some of the layoff information during COVID. I haven't looked into their salary information, so sorry, I don't have the best answer for you on this, but let us look into that. Virtual internships are also a great option. I'm not very familiar with virtual internships, but yeah, let's look into that. It might be helpful as you suggested. Does it make sense to have a portfolio if I have 2 years of data science experience? It depends on the type of jobs you're looking for. If you're already a data scientist, then probably not necessary because the work experience is the most relevant information, right? So at WeCloudData, we offer student the opportunity, like the project mentorship opportunity. So students will work on real client projects. So these are like internship, but it's not. It's different because internships are considered to be more junior, right? But students will work with our consultants because we have a consulting company. So the students will be joining the real projects, interact directly with the clients, but they're basically solving real life challenges on with the guidance of our tech lead or project managers on the project. So it's a great way to learn and gain real life experience. When you put that experience, like what we noticed, because we only worked with students, right? A lot of students, for students who have worked on real client projects, they also put like portfolio project on their resume. And when they go to interviews, if you have the real client project experience, no one asks you about any of your portfolio project anymore because it doesn't matter. If people only care about your real life experience, right? But if you don't have that experience, like most of people probably don't have that experience, then portfolio project is really important. So that's a huge difference. If you have the real client project experience, you'll get way more interviews, right? But most of the job applicants, if you are looking for data science jobs, that means you don't have data science experience yet, then portfolio experience is very important, right? That's the key thing you can show to the employer. But if you already work as a data scientist, I'm assuming you're looking for maybe machine learning engineering opportunity. If that's the case, then you still need to have portfolio. Just like if you're a data analyst looking for data science jobs, then you need to have portfolio project, or you call that side project, or you call that data science projects. But you sort of need to show people that you have the relevant data science skills. Otherwise, you don't have much advantage in the job market. But if you are in a situation where you sort of get, let's say, you get affected by the job cut recently, and you're still looking for data science jobs, then I don't think portfolio helps you that much. But I would recommend just adding different flavors. Like if you have 2 years of data science experience, then add more deep learning, add more data engineering experiences to make your profile look like stronger overall. But just adding one or two more machine learning a project is not going to make a huge difference, considering that like there are 1,000 people competing for a couple of jobs. Does it make sense to have a portfolio if I have 18 months of data science experience? Oh, that was similar to the previous one. I heard the job market is likely going to improve by 2024 Q1. Why might this be? Do you agree? It's very hard for me to predict the future. I'm not an expert in, economy side of things. But as far as I know, because we work closely with, bootcamp graduates and, learners who have like part-time learners who have a full-time job. So we get a lot of feedback from the students. The month of, I think, from like mid-April to June, that was really good job market. And a lot of students got interviews and got offers. So that's a sign of like recovery. But I don't know what the second half of this year would look like. So regardless of the job market, though, I think at this point, one thing that's definitely going to boom is the generative AI. So AI jobs is definitely on the rise. A lot of companies at this point will want to build their own like chatbot, but they don't want to just use the OpenAI API or Azure, whatever ChatGPT stuff, because they sort of banned ChatGPT. They would like to fine tune models on their own data set. And even our consulting company got some opportunities to build large language models for different clients. So you can tell the demand for AI experts and talents is definitely going to increase a lot. So I think data scientists will all need to consider upskilling themselves and learn more about, generative AI. Do you have a generative AI bootcamp? Yeah, we have a machine learning engineering bootcamp. That's basically, we just don't call that AI bootcamp. When we launched the bootcamp, we called that AI bootcamp. At that time, ChatGPT was not out yet. A lot of people don't know about AI bootcamp. So we think it makes more sense to call that a machine learning engineering bootcamp, because this bootcamp covers computer vision and natural language processing in the first semester, and the student will need to complete 2 projects. And the second semester is actually ML Ops. So we teach students how to deploy models in production, scale things. We teach things like, AWS, Kubernetes, a lot of the advanced stuff. And it's hard for us to find the best name for the program. And yeah, but now it's like 3 short courses. You can do the boot camp, or you can choose to specialize in large language modeling. I think our website is going to get updated next week, end of this week. So you'll find like large language models boot camp. You'll find a computer vision specialization course, then also the machine learning operations engineering course. But you can do that in a boot camp fashion as well. If someone has business analytics degree with Python, SQL, and Tableau experience, can they be considered for data analytics? Absolutely. I think when you look at the data analyst job requirements there, it basically asks for Python, SQL, Tableau, Power BI. That's what you have already. So you can definitely apply for any kind of data analytics jobs. But I think data analytics jobs, right? Just pay attention that it's a lot of these jobs are not just about hard skills. We're doing some sort of job description, job market analysis, but it doesn't mean that you should only focus on the hard skills, because I'm assuming that 1,000 applicants applying for the job, most of them have the right skills. They have Python, SQL, and Tableau, but only one of them can get that offer. So that means the portfolio project, ideally, it's business related, right? It needs to have a business sense, context. That's why I usually don't recommend students picking like very specific computer vision projects, because how many business actually need to build their own computer vision like capability? right? You can get specialized, or maybe you know how to fine tune like, stable diffusion models, but that's a very specific use case. If you know that, that's great. But most of the company will like to use off-the-shelf solution because they're not in the computer vision business. The data scientists are probably busy with a lot of predictive models, like generating more sales, doing better in marketing. So that's a very small group that's doing more specialized things. So if you would like to get an actual data science job, I think, or data analytics job, you need to focus on learning more business use cases. You need to understand, well, even though data analysts are all using SQL and Python, but how do we solve a data analytics problem in insurance industry, in HR analytics, right? In supply chain, because the data you're dealing with, the business problem you're dealing with is actually different, even though you're using the same tool. So when you apply for data analyst job, let's say in an HR department, they expect you to know something about HR analytics, but it's definitely not just SQL and Python. So you need to look at the hard skills, right? Because when you learn things, you're going to learn the hard skills. But keep in mind, when you build portfolio projects, it's a good opportunity for you to sort of do some research about the use cases of business intelligence and data analytics in a specific industry. Do more reading. I think that will be helpful. That'll help you, and also pick up projects or a data set that's industry specific. And then when you write your project report, try to include more business sense into it. That will help you a lot. But that's a really good question. Yeah, stay away mentioning Kaggle in your resume. I tend to agree with you because I just see too many Kaggle stuff on the resumes. It just doesn't help you differentiate anymore. So, but I also don't want to mislead everyone, because I think Kaggle is a great place for you to practice your data science and machine learning skills. And if you want to focus on Kaggle, unless you can do really, really well on the actual competition. It used to be a competition platform, but now it's just like a data science learning platform. So a lot of people do exercises, and they even have notebooks you can run. So the effort is just like very easy for you to get started on Kaggle, and you can find tutorials and things like that. But real life data science project requires like is to seriously spend time on every data frame, every column. You have to do a lot of data analysis and data exploration, and then you need to find problems in the data. That takes a lot of patience, and you need to. That's why a lot of the I think data jobs will mention like attention to details and things like that. So Kaggle is still a very good platform, but if you only have a data set like a CSV file that's provided by Kaggle, and you train a bunch of models, that's definitely not a good portfolio project, or at least it's not the one that's going to help you stand out, because 900 other people will have that anyways, right? So that doesn't give you competitive advantage. In continuation to the question I asked earlier, 7+ analytics experience, I missed to mention that I have a mix of data science and data analyst experience, 40% project in building machine learning models. That's great. 60% project in data. So you're a data scientist. Don't call yourself a data analyst. Because I think most of the data scientists don't even spend 40% time building machine learning models. So you're a data scientist already, I think. So I think your challenge here is not working on more ML projects. Like if you're confident in your ML skills already, I think it's more about storytelling. Like, stop calling yourself a data analyst. You should call yourself a data scientist. I can tell you, if what you said is true, then you're a data scientist. It's not the job title that defines you do, like it's what you do in your company that defines you, right? Like your profession. So just call yourself a data scientist, and that'll make a big change, trust me. But still, I think working on ML portfolio in your case is you can do some more advanced stuff like deep learning. That will definitely help you. And just add, because when people read your experience, you basically already have machine learning experience there. So some people may even change their job title to be data scientist. And for me, yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, that's probably not the best advice I would give people. It's totally up to you, but I think all I'm saying is you should have the confidence to call yourself a data scientist, at least in an interview, because data scientists don't train machine learning models all day long. A lot of times they're in meetings with the business. They are preparing data, writing SQL queries. Maybe 20-30% of the time they build and tune models. So unless if someone spend most of the time building machine learning models, that's probably a machine learning scientist or machine learning researcher, or someone who's more specialized in that. Yeah, that's just my take on this. Are there specific companies to target for getting jobs as an immigrant where they want to sponsor you in the USA? That is something I actually don't know. So I don't have the best answer for you. If someone in the audience know more about this, please feel free to give Mitch some suggestions. ServiceNow also does the same job. Yeah, ServiceNow also has pretty good AI capability. I think one of our machine learning engineering bootcamp instructor, their company, AI company, got acquired by ServiceNow. What is the path forward for data scientists if I'm not interested in management? So there are a lot of data scientists who nowadays switch to AI, right? So you can become machine learning engineer, which means you need to learn more about either deep learning or you can focus more on the model deployment side. So that's MLOps. I'm seeing data scientists switch into data engineering as well, and vice versa. I'm seeing data engineers switch into data science as well. So you can choose to become a product manager. It's not really like manager position because a lot of product managers don't manage people, but they play a very important role in connecting, right, the software team, the data team, and also the business team to build some awesome product features. So that's something you can consider as well. But you can go down the technical path as well to become a senior principal data scientist. And I think one thing that makes data science career attractive is that if you're bored of working as a data scientist in the bank, then just go work as a data scientist in a mining industry, right? In healthcare, because a lot of these skills are transferable, and over you can work as a data scientist for 20 years in 5 different industries. I think that's going to make your skill set and experience very valuable. And along the way, you pick, every company you work for, you probably pick up some new technologies, new tools. Some people like that. Analytics and data science product managers get paid well, and having the technical background goes a long way. I totally agree with you. Yeah. So I think a lot of the traditional product managers, if they can pick up some tech skills, that will help as well. So, but definitely seeing a lot of people from data fields switch into product management. But you absolutely have to need to like it. Not everyone can become a good product manager. If someone has a Bachelor of Science in Business Analytics degree with Python SQL and Tableau experience, can they be considered for data analyst? Absolutely. I think my question is absolutely yes. And also data analytics and business analytics, maybe data analytics is just a more technical version, but to be honest, when tools are getting easier and easier or more powerful, and there are a lot of low code and no code platforms for data analytics as well, that might be the trend in the future. And then you can just do prompt engineering and work with chat GPT or OpenAI. It's just going to be the trend. And right, and so yeah, so GitHub has these code, like the tools that can help you generate generate code. And for example, if you upload a data set to ChatGPT, I've seen a lot of demos. I haven't tried that myself, but it can basically just, write some code in Jupyter Notebook and even run the code to help you do visualization. But I think that's sort of, it's actually good. A lot of people sort of fear that the data science jobs will get taken away. That's not how I see it, because I think it just help you become more efficient. Like when you work as a data scientist, sometimes or at least myself, I just hope that some of my work can be automated, because I know a lot of the important stuff is actually not writing the code. Business understanding, relationship building is important as well. But you also have the technical job to sort of uncover the insights in data. But it's not just about producing the plot. For example, I showed you a lot of visualization today. We did that in a rush. There's so much we can improve, right? Some of these, for example, this slide or this picture got questioned, right? So you guys ask a lot of good questions, right? Is this US dollar or Canadian dollar? Is this for the US job market, right? So I sort of explained part of the stories, and there's things we need to go back to improve. That's how actually data analytics work. Like sometimes you present the results to your CEOs, to the VP of marketing, and they have their own understanding of the product and their customers. They're going to challenge it. And you always want to make sure that the numbers you provide or the insight you discover actually makes sense, right? So that's why it actually takes experience. It's, producing this plot, it should be automated. Like, for example, I think our team did this in Power BI. Python is probably more flexible. There's a Python version as well, but doing that in Power BI is just a couple of clicks and then you have a plot. That doesn't make you a data scientist or data analyst. I think being able to do storytelling, understanding a lot of the things behind this data is very important. And also preparing the data is important as well. Just, that would be my recommendation. Just keep this in mind. What are best websites with job ads for data science? There are a lot of them. LinkedIn is pretty good, right? Indeed. ZipRecruiter. And I think you can just Google and find a bunch of them. I think we collected data from another website. Somehow I forgot the name of that website, but it has a ton of jobs as well. And there's Hired as well. But yeah, I think you can just ask ChatGPT. It will give you the right answer in this case. Well, thanks, Ian, for the feedback. Sophia, I have been a data analyst for 3 years and have done a few machine learning projects. How do I head towards a data scientist role? I think, as I said, one of the challenges for data analyst to land a data science jobs is that when people look at your resume and then they saw that your job title was data analyst, they sort of, their bias already kick in. And then, oh, you're a data analyst, you're not a data scientist. So you actually need to sort of have extra effort to show people that you're capable of doing data science. I would try to find some opportunity in the current job to do machine learning. And sometimes, I know it's not easy, but it could happen. Like if you just volunteer to do something, if you have access to the data, but try to use your extra, I don't know, your boss is probably not going to be happy if you get assigned data analyst tasks and you work on machine learning stuff. That's not even asked about. But if you spend some extra time yourself to do some interesting small projects using a company's data, you have to take some initiatives, and sometimes you may find opportunity even internally. That could be one. And then you're going to leverage that experience and put that on your resume, right? So in your data analyst job, you'll have more machine learning experience. That's one thing I would try. And if that's not possible, then you'll have to work on some challenging data science portfolio project. So, and I think I've I've mentioned that a couple of times today, so hopefully that's useful. I checked the WeCloudData website. I quite interested in DevOps bootcamp. I couldn't find the schedule. Actually, you need to fill out the form. There's I think there's an application button, or there's a course package page, so you can just click on the fill out the form on the top somewhere, I think, or download the syllabus, and it should take you to the page that has all the enrollment related information. Yeah. I say AI will take away fighting the tool, like the typewriter does have. Thanks for your comment, John. Does having a cybersecurity designation help? Yes, cybersecurity is different, and it's also very hot. It's a different area. But if you think about some of the hottest jobs out there, cybersecurity is one of them. Cybersecurity, anything data related, AI, right? Generative AI, these are some of the popular ones. I've seen people doing machine learning projects for cybersecurity related issues, right? Like, so if you would like to blend these two experiences together, and then I would recommend doing some machine learning projects that related to cybersecurity. There's some open data set out there as well. But in general, I don't think the cybersecurity designation is going to help you with a data science or a data analytics job, unless it's a cybersecurity company that might help. Yeah. Okay, I think I answered a lot of questions today. But thank you for being so for asking so many good questions, and I enjoyed it, and I hope you guys find it useful. As a next step, I think we're going to keep working on this analysis, and we'll publish the report. I think you guys signed up for this Zoom session, so you may have provided your email address, and then we'll just send you the report, or we'll post this again on Meetup, or on Discord, so you can join another session where we have a better report to share with everyone. And the recording of this event will be posted on our YouTube. So yeah, definitely follow WeCloudData, and check out some of our free courses as well. If you can go to WeCloud Open, I think you can create an account. So we have free Python and SQL courses that you can, self-paced courses you can go through, and sometimes we have free workshops as well. All right. Thanks everyone for taking the time, and I look forward to chatting with you guys again. Have a great evening.